Okay, so this is going to be one of the videos where I dig a little deeper. When it comes to my videos, I feel like I pulled off a little bit. A lot of people do that in Christianity. The reason being is because you can say and you can expose so much to where you're not battling against flesh and blood. You're not battling against principalities. You're battling against you know what. So you got to make sure that you're rooted in your walk. And you really got to know your spiritual jurisdiction. So I feel like a lot of priests, a lot of pastors, whomever, they don't go too touchy on certain specific topics because it's just added spiritual whatever. But if you're covered, hey, listen, then there you go. Like I had birds hit my window and supernatural things, but I was just doing some research about Christ, talking about Christ, and this bird hit my window when I was deep in my studies. Very, very strange. You got to make sure you're really walking with God to dive into certain things. So in this video, I just want to talk about monitoring spirits and what their purpose is, what their use is. A lot of fleshly people or people who are new into spirituality, I don't even like to call it spirituality because you can be spiritual for the kingdom of darkness and you can be spiritual for the Holy Spirit, right? There's two kingdoms. There's good, there's bad. But for people who are coming into the faith, they will probably come across monitoring spirits, and to them they may be like, well, it's just some odd person always checking in. It's just that eye, it's just that owl or whatever it may be. It's just something always popping up. I'm going to tell you what the purpose of a monitoring spirit is, what the purpose of monitoring spirits are. So as it is written, I'm pretty sure it's in Job, it describes what the devil was doing. Jesus asked, where was Satan? And he said he was walking to and fro on the earth, meaning he's not omnipresent and awesome like God, where he can be sovereign and just dominate and have an everlasting kingdom and be the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, not just under our feet, under God's feet. But he is not omnipresent. That's one thing about the enemy. He is not omnipresent. He doesn't know what you're thinking. He can't see your thoughts. So he will use vessels. Just like God uses vessels, the people who wrote the scriptures had the Holy Spirit. They had the Spirit of God inside of them, and they were inspired by God to write the scriptures. God uses men and women to fulfill his will, to fulfill his plan, to do what he wants to do. There's different tiers of men and women of what they're going to be used for. It just depends if you're a dishonorable vessel. Are you an honorable vessel? Are you a gold vessel? Now the tiers are categorized by how pure and clean you are inside, because the more righteous you become, the more purified you become, the more you can get the power from God. So it takes a lot of pruning, it takes a lot of development. But anyways, so the enemy also is a counterfeit of everything that God does, because God is perfection and the enemy copies it because it works. So the purpose of monitoring spirits when it comes to the enemy's camp, it is like a string. It is a web of intelligence. That is how the camp operates. Now, a lot of people feel self-entitled, like, oh, I'm doing this, but really they are just a pawn to the bigger guy that is using those vessels to fulfill his plan. And how do you give access to the enemy? Well, unclean spirits. If you inhabit an unclean spirit, you give access to the enemy. And how do you do that? Well, in the scriptures it says, do not give a foothold to the devil. And how do you give a foothold to the devil? You sin. You have anger, you have rage, you have bitterness, you have jealousy, competitiveness, whatever it may be. That tainted heart, that uncleanliness inside of you gives the enemy access to inhabit your vessel, right? We see in the scriptures time and time again of demonic oppression, demonic attacks. Now that can happen to an extremely righteous person. I mean, in the beginning it can, and you may need to do some oil changes, but over an extended period of time, usually it fizzles out because the overarching spirit, the Holy Spirit, devours anything that would possess your body, and it becomes more holy and it becomes more righteous to where demons cannot dwell in your presence. They cannot swim in the depths of God, but rather you have the power to now cast them out. The purpose for monitoring spirits. So if you give a foothold to the devil by sin, by these unrighteous emotions, you allow the devil to use you for his will, and you are just a pawn in in his game. And now the enemy is not omnipresent. He doesn't know everything. So he will use these monitoring spirits to get information, to try to get you to speak about certain things, to get information out of you. Have you ever went to get coffee and you probably seen someone, you definitely know they're not following God, but they're asking very odd and specific questions. Hey, what about so-and-so? Hey, what about this? They will ask a question over here, and then you go to the gas station and that person will ask another question, and it's just the enemy accessing these vessels to gather information. That's why everywhere you go there's always questions, because the enemy has access to these vessels, has access to these spirits. They mean well. They may actually just be asking you questions, but they're not living righteous. They have given a foothold to the devil, and when they ask these questions, they receive it to the spirit inside, to where that is released somehow, some way in the spiritual realm. It even says in the scriptures, the spirit comes out of your temple and it seeks for rest in dry land, but it finds none. So that means that a spirit can literally come out of your body and seek for rest or seek where to go, and then it will come back with more. But anyways, that's a different topic. But these spirits have access to the spiritual realms. They can go to and fro, and that's how the enemy works, because he is not omnipresent. And it's strange. Sometimes, I'll be with somebody random that I have never seen in my life before, and they'll be like, I remember you. Oh my God, I remember you. And I'm like, I have never seen you in my entire life. But the spirit inside of you probably remembers me as a child, or something strange is going on. The spirit, it's like, oh yeah, we know who you are. It's like, who knows who I am? It's like, yeah, everything inside of you knows. Like, you really gotta have spiritual discernment to what people are saying, because it is really just spiritual. And that's how the enemy gathers intel, because he is not omnipresent. With Samson, the man with strength, he was sent a monitoring spirit that was constantly asking questions. Oh yeah, what is your strengths? What is this? What is your weaknesses? What is this? Gathering intel, because the enemy cannot be everywhere at once like God. It cannot access your thoughts. Now, it can attack your thoughts. It can attack your mind, and that is very prevalent. Now, you can break that, and you're probably going to experience that as well, a swarm of thoughts that are on fire. That's for you to figure out on your own journey. The enemy will use a string of random people, random strangers, and it all leads up to the prince. And yeah, monitoring spirits can really be anything. It could literally be an owl. It could be a crow. It could be a pet.
They have many methods of monitoring. They use animals also. Isn't this smart? Watch. If I want to monitor you, if I go as a man, you're going to say, hey, who are you? So you know I'm not going to get far. But what if I can put a spirit, summon a spirit into the body of a rat? Wow. Jesus. And as the rat stands there looking at you, I'm using the eyes as cameras.
And why is that? Because the prince and the power of the air is Satan. He is the power inside of the air, to where he can access whatever he needs to fulfill his role. No weapon formed against you will prosper, so there's really no worries, because he is just using these people as pawns. He is just using these demons as his little foot soldiers that are inevitably gonna be defeated and destroyed, and he knows that, but he just wants to stifle God's growth. So he will send these people who have given a foothold to the devil to come against us, and we destroy them, we overcome them, whether it's witches, whether it's warlocks. And then Satan's laughing. He's like, well, I stalled your time anyways, so on to the next. He just really uses these people as pawns. And a lot of people take pride in that. They're like, I'm in the enemy's camp. I'm talking about the commander and the chief. You are just a pawn, and he is only going to steal, kill, and destroy everything inside of your life, your bloodline, your finances, whatever. he is coming after you. He just wants you to spread a little bit of steal, kill, and destroy before inevitably it's your turn. But yeah, that's one way the enemy operates, because he is not omnipresent. So he can actually access a witch, and then she could access an owl, and that's how they see into the spiritual realm, or that's how they gain insight, or they see a little more. But it's really nothing to be afraid of, because if they read the scriptures, they would know that it's foolish, and there's a reason we fear the Lord. But yeah, I don't think these people read the scriptures at all. But yeah, anyways, so really nothing to be worried about. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.
I know your heart is heavy from those nights, but just remember that you are a fighter, a fighter. You never know just what tomorrow holds, and you're stronger than you know, you're stronger than you know.